Meet Javier Milei, Argentina's chainsaw-wielding president, ready to take on the system and shatter the status quo. The chainsaw symbolizes his plan to slash public spending and get after his political enemies. His unconventional approach is turning heads, with even former US President Donald Trump nodding in approval, saying he will make Argentina great again. But as the chainsaw roars and the bromance makes headlines, the question lingers. Is it a bold move for progress or just a flashy spectacle? It comes at a time when Argentina is dead broke. Annual inflation is over 140% and is expected to reach 200% by early next year. 4 in 10 Argentines live in poverty. Public debt is 90% of GDP, and the fiscal deficit is about 10% of GDP. In the face of this economic mess, Milei comes up with a radical plan, setting the central bank ablaze, dollarizing the economy, and steering clear of communists like China and Brazil. Is it a revolution for Argentina or the same old wine in a new bottle? We will explore in today's video. And remain till the end to know why we think that his policies would work more on YouTube rather than reality. Chapter 1. The Curious Case of Argentina's Economic Mess. Argentina has not always suffered such levels of economic decline. In the early 20th century, it held the 10th spot among the world's wealthiest nations, and people around the globe would often whisper, to be as rich as an Argentine. The source of Argentina's wealth was the Pampas. This expansive region produced an abundance of wheat, corn, wine, and beef, attracting foreign investments and settlers from Italy, Spain, and beyond. It was a golden era from 1860 to 1899, where Argentina's economy blossomed at a staggering 7.7% per year. For the first 2 decades of the 1900s, its economic success surpassed even the likes of Canada and Australia. Yet, as fate often plays its hand, the Great Depression cast a shadow over Argentina's prosperity. The wheels of growth came to a halt, and the next 5 decades witnessed a succession of ill-fated governments, some elected, some dictatorial. These ruling powers made economic blunders that echoed through time. Seeking to shield local industries, they slapped hefty taxes on imports, handed out subsidies, and in some instances, took control of businesses. A recipe that turned Argentina's economic engine less efficient, rendering its exports less competitive and increasing dependence on foreign capital. In a bid to break free from the shackles of economic woes, Argentina embraced a unique approach in 1991. The government pegged the peso to the mighty US dollar, a move that controlled inflation but lowered the nation's exports. Fast forward to 2003, and the stage was set for Néstor Kirchner to take the reins. His interventionist policies, continued by his wife Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, initially injected vitality into the economy. Yet, like a pendulum, the boon swung towards inflation. In 2015, Mauricio Macri emerged as the harbinger of change. He unraveled some of the interventionist threads, steering the ship towards market-friendly reforms, fiscal discipline, and the allure of foreign investment. Challenges, however, loomed large, with inflation and rising poverty rates clouding the horizon. The political pendulum swung again in 2019 as Alberto Fernández assumed the presidency, signaling a return to left-wing economic policies. Then the unforeseen tide of the COVID-19 pandemic swept across the globe, further complicating Argentina's struggle for economic recovery. Today, Argentina is in a recession, and it was evident that because of the economic struggle, sooner or later the public would be knocking at the door of a new leader. And that moment came with the arrival of Javier Milei. Chapter 2. The 2023 Presidential Elections. Argentinians had a tough year, and the only good news in recent times was winning the World Cup and Messi securing the victory while wearing that Arab robe. Then came 2023, a chance for change with the presidential elections. Surprisingly, Argentines chose outsider Javier Milei as their new president. In the final count, Mr. Milei had about 56%, beating his left-wing rival Sergio Massa with 44%. News outlets called it a political earthquake because of the radical ideas that Milei had thought of in his pre-election speeches. Nicknamed El Loco, also known as the Madman by critics, Mr. Milei promises big changes. He wants to switch to the US dollar, eliminate the local currency, peso, and dismantle the central bank to curb inflation. His plans also include cutting welfare, shutting down ministries like culture, women, health, and education, and privatizing the state energy company and public broadcasters. On social issues, he aims to ease gun laws, reverse the legalized abortion from 2020, and permit the sale of human organs. Considering Argentina's economic troubles, questions arise about the effectiveness of Milei's policies, especially dollarization and pressuring the central bank. Let's delve deeper into how these might work out. Chapter 3. Inviting the dollar, skipping the central bank, a recipe for even more trouble. Starting with Argentina's central bank, Javier Milei recently stated that this sector is non-negotiable. If that's beneficial for Argentina, he may proceed, but he needs to answer some questions. Setting the central bank on fire would mean relinquishing significant control over the economy, similar to losing one of your arms. This means Argentina would struggle with basic tasks as it loses autonomy. Many countries utilize their currencies for economic management, and Argentina would become relatively powerless as the US dollar's strength fluctuates. And even if Milei lets go of the central bank, how would he implement his dollarization policy? Speaking of dollars, Milei appears to be a fan of George Washington, and who isn't? Everyone desires dollars. Yet economically, is this a viable option for Argentina? Dollarization involves abandoning monetary policy, discarding the devalued Argentine peso, and adopting the US dollar as the national currency. While some might forget, dollarization has been tried elsewhere. Panama adopted it in 1904, and Ecuador abandoned its Sucre currency in 2000, reducing inflation to single digits. However, Argentina's situation is different. It's the third largest economy in Latin America after Brazil and Mexico, and dollarizing must be done cautiously to maintain credibility and prevent panic. But the bigger issue is that Argentina lacks a fundamental requirement for dollarization. Yes, the dollars themselves. From where would Argentina get more dollars? So with significant debts to the IMF and other organizations, borrowing more money for this purpose would be challenging. But this is just the start of an even bigger mess for Argentina, because no economic recovery can be done without regional integration or trade with the neighbors. But Javier Milei has other plans. Concerning foreign policy, Milei has vowed to distance Argentina from its two major trading partners, Brazil and China, and instead align closely with the United States and Israel, citing a refusal to do business with communists. Let's be fair, is this the right plan to bring Argentina out of inflation and the economic mess? To be precise, with a total trade volume of $5.7 billion US, Brazil ranked as the most important trade partner of Argentina in the first quarter of 2023. If Milei opts not to engage in business with his primary trading partner, what alternative strategy does he have up his sleeve? Adding to the troubles, Milei's plans for a smaller government involve selling off assets, cutting taxes and spending, opening up trade, and loosening job regulations. In his campaign, he also took on a cultural battle against feminism and socialism, promising to shut down the Ministry of Women, Gender and Diversity, scrap sex education in schools, and let the public vote on overturning the 2020 law allowing abortion. Honestly, these moves could stir up trouble in society, causing more divisions and putting a damper on economic progress. But do you know what's even more troubling for Argentina's future? Javier Milei's lack of experience and the political deadlock that's waiting for him. Chapter 4. Unleashing the chainsaw. Will it hold or snap? Javier Milei, despite lacking executive experience and the necessary political machinery to guide the economy away from the brink, faces limits to the president's powers. In Argentina, tax and education policy fall under the jurisdiction of the Congress, where Milei's party has minimal representation. Liberty Advances holds a mere 38 seats out of 257 in the Chamber of Deputies and 7 out of 72 in the Senate. The party doesn't control any of the country's 24 influential subnational governments. While Milei might win over some Together for Change politicians, success hinges on achieving rapid economic victories. Surprisingly, the candidate who consistently criticized the political caste throughout his campaign now finds himself relying on the same political class to implement the policies he pledged. But one must also be ready for the downside, as history tells us a lesson. Argentina's previous economic crisis in 2001 to 2002 led to the resignation of the sitting president, triggering a succession of 5 leaders within 2 weeks. Given the radical changes that Javier Milei has proposed, the probability of another crisis cannot be ruled out. To sum it up, the chainsaw guy, also known as the madman, has some unconventional ideas that could put the Argentine economy into another bigger crisis. Removing the central bank, the economic arm of the government, would be a big mistake, as then Argentina would lose its ability and autonomy to make economic decisions. But his lack of skill is evident from his decision to go for dollarization, because for that he needs dollars, and that's the one thing that Argentina has in short supply. The only way to come out of the crisis would be increased exports and reduction in government spending, but he's more keen on removing ties with the neighbors, preferably his best trading partner, Brazil. The upcoming months will shape Argentina's economic fate, as the chainsaw of change has been set in motion. However, considering past experiences and economists' predictions, Javier Milei's policies may lead to a nightmare, potentially deepening societal divisions and plunging Argentina into a more significant economic crisis. What do you think about the rise of Javier Milei and his economic policies? Will he bring Argentina out of the crisis? Do let me know in the comments section. If you liked the video, do subscribe to the channel for more updates. We will catch you in the next one.